In the sweltering heart of a long Texas summer, when the soil cracks open like an old pie crust left too long in the oven, and every leaf on most fruit bushes starts to curl in defeat, something magical happens for the right plants. They don't just hang on. They keep pushing out sweet, juicy harvests that taste like victory straight from the earth. I've watched it happen season after season in dry corners of the garden where rainfall plays hide and seek and the sun beats down without mercy. These 12 fruit bushes weren't bred in some fancy lab for perfect conditions. No, they were forged by nature herself, in places much like the American Southwest, the high desert stretches, or even the sun-baked Mediterranean hills of southern Europe, where water is a gift, not a guarantee. As a fellow gardener sharing thoughts from the soil, I'm here to tell you their stories, not as some list of must-haves, but as living partners that turn drought into abundance if you give them half a chance and a little early love. Let's start where the roots run deepest and the rewards come quickest. The Apache blackberry stands tall as that thornless workhorse you'll thank yourself for planting along a fence or in a sunny corner. Imagine stepping out at dawn, the air still cool and carrying that faint, earthy scent of dew on mulch, and filling your basket with glossy black berries the size of your thumb. No scratches, no fuss, just pure sweetness bursting on the tongue. Bred with heat and dry spells in mind, this variety sends its roots probing far below the surface, tapping into moisture that shallower plants never reach. In central Texas limestone, or the alkaline clays of a European olive grove, it settles in after that crucial first year of deep weekly soakings, then laughs off weeks without rain. I've seen established canes produce for 15 or 20 years with nothing more than an annual prune of the old wood, letting fresh ones shoot up like hopeful green fingers. Pair it with some low-growing thyme or oregano underneath for a cottage garden carpet that draws in bees and keeps the soil cool. Common mistake? Watering lightly every day instead of deeply once a week in those early summers. That keeps roots lazy at the top. Switch to infrequent soaks, and you'll harvest enough for fresh eating, cobblers, or jars of jam that line your pantry shelves through winter. For European gardeners in zones like Spain's interior or France's south, mulch thick with straw to mimic the natural leaf litter of wild brambles, and you'll cut irrigation even further while boosting soil life. Next comes a surprise that flips the calendar on its head: the loquat, that evergreen beauty ripening its golden clusters when the rest of the garden is barely stirring from winter sleep. Picture walking your paths in late February, the air crisp with a hint of frost still lingering on the grass, and plucking warm, peachy apricot fruits that carry a whisper of mango and flowers. Once those deep roots take hold, this bush shrugs off drought like an old friend, thriving through Texas heat waves or the dry Mediterranean summers where irrigation feels like a luxury. It handles dips to around 15 degrees without much complaint, making it perfect for Austin's wild temperature swings or cooler edges of European dry zones. The large, leathery leaves stay glossy year-round, offering shade and that quiet, evergreen backbone to your edible landscape. In my experience, the real trick is thinning those marble-sized fruits in late fall. Yes, it feels wrong to pull half away, but the ones left grow plump and intensely sweet, turning a so-so crop into something you share with neighbors over coffee. Companion plant it near early blooming bulbs like daffodils for a layered look that feeds pollinators early, and watch the whole bed come alive. Troubleshooting a slow start? Add a handful of composted oak leaves to the planting hole to nudge acidity just a touch without fighting the soil's natural balance. The payoff is that off-season miracle when fresh fruit feels like a secret the garden is whispering only to you. Then there's the quince, an ancient soul that's been feeding folks across dry lands for thousands of years, turning tart, golden orbs into kitchen gold after a simmer on the stove. Fresh from the branch, it bites back with astringency. But cook it slow with a bit of honey and spices, and the flesh melts into rose-pink perfume that fills your kitchen like a warm hug. This bush asks so little once settled. Poor soil, blazing heat, even those occasional hard freezes in Texas winters or European foothills. It just blooms beautifully in spring and loads up in fall. I love how one mature plant can yield 50 to 100 fruits that store for months in a cool shed, their floral scent ripening further and turning into paste, jelly, or slices roasted beside a Sunday roast. In sustainable setups, tuck it beside nitrogen fixers like clover to gently feed the soil without fertilizers, and you'll notice the whole area hums with more earthworms and beneficial bugs. For gardeners in the high desert or Provence-like climates, focus on well-drained spots to avoid any root rot in rare wet spells. A small story from the patch. Last dry August, while neighbors' trees drooped, my quince stood firm, fruits swelling under a simple layer of wood chips that held what little moisture the sky offered. Harvest when they turn fully golden and fragrant. Never wait for softness, and you'll have winter treats that make preserving feel like pure joy rather than chore. Right in the native heart of it all sits the Texas persimmon, a true legend of the limestone hills and dry creek beds that feels like the land itself decided to gift us food. Its smooth, gray bark peels in papery curls, giving 4 seasons of quiet beauty even when fruit isn't hanging. Those small jet-black berries ripen to a date-like sweetness with vanilla undertones that birds and people alike fight over gently. Native to exactly the tough conditions of central Texas, it lives over a century with almost no help, turning a single planting into generational bounty. European gardeners in similar dry zones can adapt it beautifully by mimicking rocky slopes with gravel mulch. The early years test your patience, mostly watching and waiting as roots dive deep. But by year 3, it's self-reliant, producing reliably through heat and scarcity. Pros outweigh the cons. 0 pest drama, stunning wildlife support. But do source locally so the plant already knows your rainfall rhythms. Companion it with native grasses for a prairie feel that builds biodiversity. And suddenly, your garden edge becomes a living hedge that feeds more than just your table. Hiding in plain sight across those same trails is Agarita, the spiny Texas treasure with holly-like leaves and bright red berries that turn into the most vibrant jelly you've ever spooned onto warm biscuits. It grows wild on rocky slopes, needing nothing but sun and the occasional deep drink in its first season. Plant it as a barrier hedge, and you get security plus spring harvests. Tart, antioxidant-packed fruits that have flavored Texas tables for generations. Shake ripe ones onto a tarp to avoid the spines, a trick that saves fingers and time. In European dry gardens, it echoes the wild mahonias of the Mediterranean, thriving with minimal fuss. I've seen it double as a pollinator magnet when its yellow winter flowers open, drawing bees when little else is blooming. Common fix for slow fruiting? Ensure full sun and skip rich amendments. It prefers lean living, just like the land it came from. The Chickasaw plum thicket follows, a native that spreads quietly through root suckers into a generous grove feeding family, birds, and beneficials alike. Clouds of honey-scented white blooms in early spring give way to hundreds of small, intensely flavored plums, sweet tart jewels perfect for pies or that unforgettable jam. It grows wild along roadsides with zero care, making it ideal for low-water homesteading. Manage edges with a mower if you want, or let it form a natural screen that shelters wildlife. In European climates with dry summers, it adapts well to zones with similar swings, pairing nicely with comfrey for soil building underneath. Let a few fallen fruits sprout naturally, and your 3-plant start becomes a 15-plant bounty in a decade. Harvests growing right alongside it. The thicket's early summer abundance is one of those garden moments that lingers, sticky fingers and all. No dry climate list feels complete without the pomegranate, that ancient champion whose brilliant flowers and jeweled fruits have sustained civilizations through scarcity. Deep green leaves, orange-red blooms lasting months, then ruby arils bursting with sweet tart antioxidants. 50 to 100 per mature bush beats store prices any day. It laughs at alkaline soils and 100-degree days in Texas or Spain's interior, tolerating light freezes once rooted. Prune lightly each spring to cycle young wood, and production stays high with almost no other effort. Tuck lavender nearby for a cottage border that repels pests naturally, and enjoy the hummingbird show all summer. For troubleshooting, yellow leaves often mean the first-year watering wasn't deep enough. Fix it early, and the plant rewards you forever. Then comes the prickly pear, that iconic Texan woven into the landscape like a living story of resilience. Its pads, nopales, offer mild, bean-like greens for grilling or scrambling, harvested multiple times yearly, while the tunas ripen into sweet melon-like orbs for juice, jam, or candy. Absolute drought tolerance means it stores water in those pads, surviving months dry once established in full sun and gritty soil. In European Mediterranean patches, it feels right at home among olive trees. Use tongs and gloves for harvest to dodge those sneaky glochids, and suddenly this cactus becomes a joy, feeding you from vegetable to dessert without asking for water. A small win. One plant can supply a family's summer sides and fall sweets for decades. The fig follows as that ancient provider, whose aggressive roots hunt every drop, thriving on deep, infrequent drinks that mirror natural rains. Warm from the sun fruit, jammy and perfumed, beats anything shipped in. Varieties like Texas everbearing give 2 crops even after hard knocks, bouncing back from freezes with new shoots. In dry European gardens, it echoes old orchard traditions, pairing with rosemary for pest control and scent. If it dies back, don't panic. The roots remember. Mulch heavily and watch it reclaim its spot, turning scarcity into plenty. American persimmon brings that patient sweetness, its astringent fruits transforming post-frost into brown sugar richness unlike anything else. Native toughness handles drought, poor soil, and swings across U.S. zones or cooler European edges. Plant male and female pairs for heavy crops that stretch into winter, perfect for puddings or drying. Hundreds of fruits from a 15-year bush with zero input. Now that's legacy gardening. Pineapple guava, or feijoa, earns its keep with tropical flavor in a tough package. Pineapple, strawberry, mint in every bite. Cold hardy to the teens, it handles dry spells and alkaline ground beautifully. Edible flowers draw hummingbirds, and fruits drop ready to eat in fall. Plant Apollo and Gemini together for bigger yields, and enjoy that simple harvest rhythm. In Mediterranean Europe, it feels like a natural fit among citrus relatives. Finally, the jujube claims the crown as the drought king, producing crisp, apple-like fruits that deepen to caramel dates on the same bush. It laughs at heat above 100, alkaline limestone, and freezes, yielding hundreds after 10 years with nothing extra. In Austin, or similar European dry spots, the day-night temperature swings in fall bring out its best. Lee or honey jar varieties shine. Plant one and watch it become a family heirloom. Before you head out with shovel in hand, remember the secret that binds them all. Establishment is everything. Even these tough ones need your steady hand the first full season. Deep weekly waterings that train roots downward. Thick organic mulch to lock in moisture and feed soil life. And maybe a compost tea boost now and then. Skip the frequent sprinkles. They breed shallow habits. By year 2, you ease back. And by 3, most stand alone, freeing you to enjoy the garden instead of chasing hoses. Add companion plants like marigolds for pest control or legumes for gentle nitrogen, and suddenly your patch becomes a living web of resilience. These bushes aren't just survivors. They're storytellers, weaving abundance into dry days with their blooms, fruits, and quiet strength. Whether you're coaxing life from Central Texas clay, a high desert slope, or a Mediterranean hillside where olives whisper in the breeze, they prove growing your own food isn't a dream for perfect places. It's a real, earthy possibility right where you stand. So go on. Pick 1 or 3 that speak to your soil, tuck them in with care, and watch the magic unfold. Your future self, and maybe a few generations after, will thank you every time the basket comes in heavy and sweet. The garden waits, patient as always, ready to share its gifts with those who listen to the soil.